students, let us see the Unit 2, see reading The Brave Potter. The Brave Potter. What do you mean by potter? Potter means a skilled person in an art of pottery. In an art of pottery. Now, here, children and adults are fond of folk tales which are often amusing and sometimes instructive. Is that much very interesting stories. The author, Margaret Seek, was a great storyteller. He was a great storyteller. He was very much interested in telling folk and mythological stories of Asia. The present story, The Brave Potter, is a very popular Telugu one. The author, Margaret Story, translated this Telugu for folk tale into English. Now let us enter into the story. It was dark now. The first thing, it was the dark now. Thick black clouds covered the evening sky. Wind shook the branches in the forest. The lightning flashed and split the sky. Soon it was raining heavily. On that day, an old tiger came out of the forest and he was drenched in the rain. He ran through the rain for shelter. He is searching for shelter. He saw a hut and crawled under the thatched roof with a sigh of relief. He began to sleep. Before he nodded off means a small sleep. Before he nodded off, he heard something dragged inside the hut. Something dragged inside the hut. That sound disturbed him. He heard a woman's voice inside the hut also. What she said? Oh, how terrible this leak is. I would rather meet a tiger than have this leak in my house. Leak. Water. Water particles. Particles moves away. Moves from. Yeah, that is the leak. But the tiger thought that the leak was a very dangerous and strong creature and frightened about the leak. While the thought about the leak, he got fast asleep. On the afternoon of the day, a potter arrived home after his hard work. He drank more wine and also asked his wife for some more wine. When the storm began suddenly he remembered about his donkey. He left his donkey tied under a tree. So he rushed out to the place and found that the donkey was not there and anywhere also. He told to himself, I think that stupid donkey ran off in the forest. When I catch him, I'll give him a good beat. Potter said to himself and ran into the wet forest. Now, hours later, the potter reached the old woman's hut and found his animal was sleeping there. He mistook that the tiger as his donkey. He bit the tiger and kicked it. The tiger thought he was the dangerous creature, a leak. So he frightened to him. The potter jumped on its back and rode it to home. He tied it up with an iron chain in front of his house. The next morning, the village people saw the tiger at the potter's house and praised him about his bravery and called him the brave potter. The news spread everywhere. Potter did not know how the donkey could change into a tiger. A few days later, a war broke out in his country. The king of his country was worrying about how he could save the country because the enemy army was very much strong. Was much strong. Now, the king called his ministers together and said that he need a brave hero to lead his army because the enemy army is large and strong. One of his ministers remembered about the potter, the story of the potter that he had tied a tiger in front of his house and told this to the king about him. The king immediately sent a messenger to the pastor's house and wanted to make him the general of the army. When the potter heard the news through his wife, he was frightened. He was frightened. The king ordered him to go to the palace the next day. The potter became nervous and told his wife, "Oh, I shall die because of that stupid donkey. I had never carried a sword nor even ride a horse." The next day, he went with his wife to the king. The king ordered him to lead the army into the battle the next day. A splendid house had been prepared for him and his wife, and a horse was ready to ride in the stable. Early morning, the potter woke up his wife and went to the stable. The potter sighed and said, "How tall this horse is! I shall never be able to climb on its back." His wife brought a bench, then put them for him to climb up. The potter climbed on the horse's back. He asked his wife to tie his feet to the stirrups, stirrups, the horse stirrups. Tied to the stirrups, that means on the back of a horse. Okay. Now he asked his wife to tie his stirrups and also to tie his waist to the saddle. Saddle, remember saddle, a seat on the horse. A seat on the horse. Now the sentry shouts. When he asked his wife to tie his husband's neck to the horse impatiently jumped free. It galloped out of the stable. The potter held tightly to the horse neck and prayed to all the gods to save his life. The horse, galloping the quiet streets, crashed through the city gates and raced across the open fields. It leaped over there and began to gallop towards the enemy's camp. When they passed a young tree, the potter grabbed a branch of tree, but the horse did not stop. The tree was pulled out of the ground. He held the branch tightly. A sentry from the enemy camp saw the potter galloping towards the camp with the tree in one hand and his rein in another hand, and in right hand. The sentry shouts at the camp, "Run, run, save yourself! The famous tiger general is coming at the head of the large army. He has uprooted a tree with only one hand. He is not an ordinary man. He is a giant. He will attack us. He has uprooted a tree with one hand." On hearing this, the frightened enemy soldiers fled away. All the soldiers fled away. The king wrote a letter begging for peace and apologies for attacking the country and kept it on the table, and he also fled away. He left the letter on his table and left away. The horse stopped at the camp. The potter untied his feet and fell down to the ground. He was surprised to see the camp empty. He looked in the king's tent. Found a letter. He put in his pocket and returned to the city. Now he met his wife and gave that letter to her. "I am so tired. I want to go to bed. Please hand over this letter to our king," he said. At once his wife took that letter and go to the king, and she handed over it to the king. The king read that letter and praised the brave potter. He called his wife and said, "Your husband is tired. He has taken rest. Let him take rest. Ask him to come tomorrow to get the reward. Let him rest today," he says. The wife informed this one to the husband. Then next morning, the potter and his wife went to the king's palace. He left the brown horse in the stable and walked to the palace with his wife. The street was filled with cheering crowds. They had all heard about his brave action. "Look how humble they are," said to the others. Said to each other. "Any other man would rule a palace and horse, but he is walking like an ordinary man. He is truly humble and brave man." That king rewarded the potter and asked him to go to his home and made him to not to work again. The country was peaceful for the rest of his life,